Listen up and sit down. I'm going to tell you another episode of the HBO war series based on the real history of Indonesia. Like any good series, there's a prologue, and this context is the Sumatra Treaty of 1871, where basically the English give up all of their land in Sumatra to the Dutch, including the Aceh Sultanate. This is basically that scene in Shogun where Cosmo Jarvis's character explains to the Japanese how China and the Japan was somehow divinely created as a territory of Portugal. So the Dutch and the English divide up all of these territories, but the people of Aceh was like, what are you non-melanated people doing in my homeland? Like, get out, bro. And the answer to why the Dutch wanted Sumatra Island so bad is black pepper and oil. That's what the Dutch wanted from Sumatra. Come to the series, Teku Ben Daud Pirak. He is the Ule Balang of the Pirak region in the Acehni Sultanate. An Ule Balang is essentially a leader of a specific region, and they're usually from royalty. Teku Ben Daud Pirak has 4 sons, and in 1870, he has a daughter. And he names his daughter Mutia, meaning pearl. Remember her because she's gonna be important. During Mutia's childhood, the Aceh War breaks loose in 1873, and it was a very expensive and very long war that lasted about 31 years all the way up to 1904. So in this war, the people of Aceh fought for their homeland. And they took up arms not because they were trying to safeguard their commodity, but essentially because they were fighting for their own sovereignty. They thought that this war, with all of these white people coming in and taking up these territories, it was a threat to their religion. So in a way, it was a holy war for them. Back to Mutia. She was educated in strong values of Islam, and especially seeing her father and her 4 brothers, as well as the people around her, taking up resistance and fighting the Dutch. In 1890, Mutia marries a man called Teku Shamsharif. Teku Shamsharif is the second son of Cut Nyak Asia of Kerato. In 1891, Kerato signs Korte Verklaring, which is a short treaty that formally acknowledged the Dutch as the ruling power in the regions of Aceh. This was a slap to the face for Mutia, and add to that, Teku Shamsharif was then made to be Ule Balang of Kerato by the Dutch, essentially making him a puppet leader. Because Mutia is now the wife of an Ule Balang, she becomes known as Cut Nyak Mutia. She is the leading lady. She is the main character of this episode. One day, Teku Shamsharif calls her up, and he's like, yo girl, why are you always looking so sad? Like, you should be happy that you are the wife of a privileged leader like me. Cut Mutia looks at him and says, you are not a leader elevated by your honor. You are a leader picked by the enemy. Ah! Girl! Yes, girl, call him out. So she goes back to her father at Pirak, right? Teku Shamsharif sends a letter to Teku Ben Daud Pirak and was like, hey, can you send Cut Nyak Mutia back to Kerato? And she goes, I am not an object that you can demand to go back and forth. If you want me, come and get me. Ah! The original of if he could, he would, girl. Senior journalist Muhammad Said actually describes Cut Nyak Mutia. A woman like her was not a match for Teku Chik Bentara or Teku Shamsharif, a man with weak character who lived in cooperation with the Dutch. She was a daughter of her people, whose heart was drawn to the struggle of those in resistance. That was where she longed to be, where she was free from the influence of the kafir, especially from her unappealing husband, who did not have the courage to follow her. That was also why she requested a divorce from him, an act that was nothing less than a sign of rejection towards a man she did not respect. A man who only wanted to save himself. Girl, yes! So they divorced. So Cut Nyak Mutia is back in Pirak within her father and her brother's army, and she meets Teku Muhammad. Teku Cut Muhammad is actually her ex-husband's older brother. But unlike her older brother, Teuku Cut Muhammad is active in the resistance against the Dutch. And he was not power hungry. He was also the Ule Balang of Karato, but specifically North Ule Balang. And his position as the Ule Balang of Karato was officially recognized by the seal of the Aceh Sultanate. So that meant that he got his position through merit and honor. He was a leader by the people and not by a puppet of the Dutch. Cut Mutia was like, did I manifest this? Around 1901, Cut Mutia and Teuku Cut Muhammad marries, and they fight against the Dutch together. The way that they fought, they utilized spies and hit and run attacks. So they would mess up the train lines, the telephone lines. Cut Mutia was an equal fighter beside her husband. War journalist H.C. Zentgraf says, the brave and courageous Acehnese woman was an embodiment of an unmatched sense of vengeance towards Dutch colonialists and knew no peace. When she joined the fight, the task was carried out with a fearlessness that defied death, often surpassing men in intensity. In 1909, Teuku Cut Muhammad was accused of conspiring and carrying out an attack against Dutch forces. He was caught, arrested, and then executed. But before his death, he told Cut Mutia, who, by the way, had just given birth to their second son, to continue on the fight and to marry one of his lead commanders called Pang Nangro. So Cut Mutia agreed, and she marries Pang Nangro, and they continue their resistance and fighting the Dutch colonial forces. So before, with Teuku Cut Muhammad, they utilized spies and espionage and their local intelligence force to do hit-and-run attacks. But with Pang Nangro, they utilized a lot of traps. So for example, they would saw off the foundations of a house that they knew the Dutch forces would be meeting in. And then when the Dutch officers had their meeting in that house, they would pull the trap and essentially the house would collapse on themselves. It shows the strategic growth of Cut Mutia and utilizing efficient grassroots approach to her campaign. In September 1910, Pang Nangro was ambushed by Dutch forces in the marshes of Paya Chicham. He was shot, and accompanying him was Teuku Rajasabi, Cut Mutia's 6-year-old first son. Pang Nangro's last words to Teuku Rajasabi was, "Take the renchong from my waist and the cloth from my head. Run quickly to find your mother, deliver my farewell from the battlefield, and continue the holy war. God willing, we will meet again in the afterlife." And he ran as fast as he could with his little feet. On October 1910, Cut Mutia was tracked down by Sergeant Musselman. He was a prominent Dutch brigade leader. In his own words, he describes Cut Mutia's final battle. "You can still see the look of that yellow-white woman with her intelligent face, fueled by her burning feelings to die as a martyr. With wild eyes and hair loose on her head, which swung a machete and attacked us." Cut Mutia died on October 24th, 1901. She was officially declared a national hero of Indonesia in May 2nd, 1964. While I was researching her and going through all of the sources, they all paint such a vivid picture of who this woman was, her character, and her stubbornness and strong will to fight for this mission that she believed down to her blood. May she rest in peace, and hopefully we also continue to get inspired by her and fight for the freedom that she so vehemently believed in. What do you think? Would you watch this HBO series? Let me know in the comments.